Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just potential things that never happened. I think that's probably the best way to put it. So The Flash is a film, that's come and gone by a decent margin by this point. And as we know, this was going to be a very important movie in regards to what DC had planned going forward before James Gunn came in and became the new, or just the initial co-head of DC Studios alongside Peter Safran, because it didn't exist before then. Now it does. So due to that, all the things that were going to, lead into other projects were essentially deleted and just forgotten about for the most part. I guess for the most part, there's still some lingering things there. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But recently we found out that the writer who was hired for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, one of the earlier projects that's going to be happening in James Gunn's new DC universe, was actually writing a script for a Supergirl standalone film that would come out of the Flash film. So essentially just move from one Supergirl project to the next one. But recently we got to look at something that was being written to spin out of the Flash film, but this wasn't another film. This was set to be a TV series, one based around Booster Gold. Now, of course, Booster Gold will also be a series that's happening under the James Gunn umbrella in this new DC universe, but it has nothing to do with this version that we're going to be going over in this video. This would be connected to the previous universe. Now, this is a scrapped version of a spec script, which is sort of like, something that you'd write to sort of like potentially happen. You actually aren't specifically hired to write it. It's more just, you're more writing it to, for it to potentially happen, if that's the idea. So it's a scrapped spec script for a Booster Gold pilot, with the pilot script being uploaded by one of the writers. And with this, we also got some concept art as to how it would have been, or not how it would have been, but I guess how it would have played into the Flash film, including that Booster Gold would have actually been a familiar character from that film. Now, this spec script was actually co-written by the guy who played the Gary character in the Flash film, if you remember him. I'll put him on screen if you forget him. And that actor is, I guess, co-writer is called Sean Rogers. So I'm just going to go over the meat and potatoes of this spec script and the main stuff that happens and sort of caught my eye. But the full spec script, I'll link in the description down below for anyone that is interested in giving it a read. But if you don't want to read it, you can just hear me talk about it right now. So in regards to the story for the pilot, if you want to put it, it actually starts with an action scene of Booster Gold stopping a bank robbery with a lot of gold puns. It's sort of getting ridiculous, but I think that's obviously intentional. It's not like it's ridiculous by accident, like it's intentional. With this revealed as a recorded pitch, this is actually something Booster Gold recorded for a potential Booster Gold TV series that Booster Gold himself is pitching to Warner Brothers executives to possibly be an HBO Max series. So it's very meta, with the executives in this case being called James and Peter, which I'm going to assume are as in like James Gunn and Peter Safran, with them actually not really liking the pitch too much, but Booster essentially almost talking himself into believing it's going to happen despite them saying nothing. And Peter and James actually asking, like, who the hell would watch a Booster Gold show? So that would have been, I guess, a pretty funny way to have an opening to this show, but also have some cameos from those two in this scene rejecting the idea of a Booster Gold show in the opening of the actual Booster Gold show that's happening. So I think that's pretty funny. Now, this opening scene or portion of actually also had a cameo from The Flash, picking up from the end of the movie, where he helps clean up Booster's real life attempt at stopping the bank robbery, which then became that pitch which Booster, sort of glamorized, if you want to put it, when selling it to the executives. And the Flash gives Booster some advice about being a hero and also offering a helping hand if needed. So I think the Flash was like the pure character, if they were going to use him, that, was previously there. Like, other people are mentioned and I guess you get glimpses of them, but the Flash actually was a proper character in this pilot, even if it was, just a cameo for the most part. Now, in this pilot, we have Booster Gold pretty desperate to be a part of the Justice League, sending an audition tape that's mentioned as if he was trying out for a movie or TV role. Now, there is a good back and forth between Booster and his robot buddy Skeets, and Booster just really wants to be a famous superhero that people look up to, but people are just more interested in someone like Superman, who himself gets attention from the general public after he flies over them around this time, and Booster actually briefly mistakes this as potentially cheers for him, but that's quickly squashed. Now, we do have some other characters from the comics appearing in this pilot as allies to Booster in the form of Dirk Davis, who is his manager, and that's the same in the comics. Then Trixie Collins, who is his intern in this pilot, and in the comics she's more like, I guess, well, she at least starts off as like his secretary, if you want to put it. Now, an interesting aspect of this pilot script, which is pretty obvious, is the fact that Booster is from the future. So it plays into him recognizing people or events happening before they happen, whether it's through him straight up knowing everything, or him going, that person looks familiar, and then Skeets with, his date or their database can look everything up. So for example, he recognizes Beatrice DaCosta before she becomes the hero known as Fire, and then she plays into this pilot for a decent amount as well and sort of gets the ball rolling. And he actually recognizes her on the day before she's like officially gotten her powers and everything like that. So Booster plans to use Beatrice's destiny of becoming a member of the Justice League in the form of the hero Fire as a way to get himself into the Justice League. So not really selfish, but just like, hey, like take advantage of what you can, I guess. But in doing so, he doesn't just witness her not getting her powers and becoming a hero, things change, but he also witnesses her death whilst in a fight with the 1000 gang, and in tandem with an OMAC appearing and being responsible for the actual death of Beatrice. Obviously, OMAC's, I think they were in Blue Beetle, so OMAC's, they sort of cross different characters within the DC universe. But one thing that's, put forward is like, was Booster being there why she really died and why Beatrice really died and didn't get her powers? Or was it maybe the OMAC that caused all of this? So due to this, Booster wants to try and change what happened and comes across a time sphere, what he'd used to get back to the present day initially, and he wants to use it to go back and stop himself from doing what happened and causing the death of Beatrice. And as they leave, we find out who this time sphere actually belongs to, that being Rip Hunter, who of course is Booster Gold's son, though mainly appears older in most comics because of timeline stuff. But when Booster goes back in time with Skeets in the time sphere, they don't go back a day or just a few days or a few hours or, even maybe a few years or whatever it is, so they can try and stop Beatrice from dying. They go back a bit more than that, by a decent amount. They actually go back to around the supposed times of Camelot, and that's from memory like the 5th or 6th century roughly. So they've gone a decent amount back in time. So it would have been interesting to see what the continuation would have been like in that scenario. Now, in regards to what the rest of the show would have been, because that's the end of the pilot. Like the stinger for the pilot is them stuck in Camelot, and that's where they end up after going through the time sphere, and them not really knowing how to go back forward. Like that's something that's brought up in the time sphere, is like Booster being like, oh, I think we missed it. Can we go forward a few years again? And Skeets is like, I don't think that's how it works. So they're stuck here, at least in regards to what they know what to do. So what would the entire season been about following this? Now, Mike, one of the writers, the actual guy who uploaded the script, he gave a viewpoint of what the season would have been like if this pushed forward, and the season would have dealt with the time-traveling OMAC, which we'd seen and was responsible for the death of Beatrice, trying to wipe heroes out by stopping the moment of their origin. So Booster Gold, with Rip Hunter, would have traveled to multiple time periods to try and preserve the timeline, thus learning what it means to be a true hero, through seeing the origins of other heroes, because, Booster Gold doesn't have his own proper origin, or at least an organic origin as to why he became a hero. He's doing it in his own way, if you want to put it. So this idea sounds pretty interesting. It does sound very much like Legends of Tomorrow in some aspect. You definitely get some Legendsy stuff there. Obviously because of the time travel stuff, and also because of being a bit of an unorthodox hero in the form of Booster Gold. But it also would have been interesting to see like what other heroes are here, like what other heroes have their origins messed with. Like with Batman, does Martha and Thomas Wayne just not get shot? With Superman, do they flick his pod or something like that? Or does he go into the Phantom Zone? Like what's the change there that they do with these origins? That's something interesting. I think it would be origins in the form of like Fire, or maybe even the Flash. They could easily change the Flash, just Barry doesn't go into the lab at that night. So there's instances like that where you could change the origin, which I think could be pretty interesting to see play out in a show, and trying to stop them. So I don't know if the series would have been very, serialized, if you want to put it, or like a procedural, might I say, where each episode is stopping a hero from, having their origin messed with, or it's more of just a wide thing where like maybe there's not a hero in every episode. It's more like every second or third episode or whatever it might be. Would have been an interesting thing to see. Now, in regards to the concept art, there was this stuff that was uploaded, and it's actually, as you can see here, it's actually concept art showing Gary from the Flash movie, who's played by one of the co-writers, Sean Rogers, that he was actually secretly Booster Gold in cloaking on that couch in the Flash movie. And there's this thing here, you can see the storyboard where Skeet says, Booster, according to the record, the Barrys will arrive in approximately 10 seconds, and then they activate the cloaking mode. Now, I'm going to assume that this would have been an idea that they would have maybe planned for a future episode script, where maybe they show maybe how the timeline changes based off what Booster is doing and maybe what the OMAC does and who it influences and stuff like that. But this is sort of like leading into the Flashpoint timeline. So I don't know if this is something they would have actually fully had planned to use if they could do it and got the show up and running, or if it's just a general idea of like how you could mix and match Booster in different scenarios. Maybe that's just the idea, I'm not too sure. So I guess one of the big questions here is like, would this have been a good show? And it sounds like, you know, this one sounds very Booster Goldie, Booster Goldie, if that's a term. It does seem very, you know, much like the character and, you know, everything like that, especially if you put it within a certain universe that's already there. And you can also introduce some other heroes that haven't been seen in other, whether it's movies or I guess TV shows at that point before. That would have been really, really cool. But also, what will the Booster Gold show in James Gunn's universe be like? And I think it'd be, like, I'd assume the show coming our way will be pretty similar in regards to how Booster is portrayed here. If it is a proper Booster Gold show, like it will have these different elements, just different situations and all that. And like the whole thing might not be this big time travel thing. I think with Booster Gold, you don't have to do it with this big time traveling thing. You can include it if you want to, but it could easily just be him in the present day doing his own thing and learning to be a hero in his own way. And learning mistakes along the way as well. Like you don't have to do the grander thing that they've done in this spec script, or at least set up. So I think it's going to be, you know, this might give you a feel, if you want to put it, of what you might expect with Booster Gold. Like if you aren't too familiar with the character, this spec script probably gives you a decent idea of what to expect, though it's going to come down to who the individual writer is, who the actor is that plays the character and everything like that. But this will give you a general feel for the most part. So yeah, if you have the time, it's probably worth, you know, checking out the spec script if you want to read it, and it might, you know, might give you some knowledge if you want to put it, or at least get you prepared for the most part. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. You could drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions and everything that we went over in this video. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. Would you have watched this show? Do you like it? And you're looking forward to the actual Booster Gold show that's coming our way via James Gunn. Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.